And now, at the top of the hour with more Bears news, it is Fourth Quarter Boys Sports. I am the illustrious Professor Lake, and I'm back from the laboratory. You know what it is, we're going to talk about the Chicago Bears a little bit and their divisional opponents. Got to turn our sights to our opponents so we can see where we stack up against our rivals this season. So we have one of the toughest divisions in the NFC. The NFC North is looking to be a very competitive division. I think we're going to beat the hell out of teams in other divisions, and we're going to beat the hell out of each other. It's going to be a hard climb to the top of this mountain. But we're taking a look at the other teams in our division just to see what changes have been made to their roster, what strengths have they developed, what weaknesses still exist, and we're going to dive right into it. So again, it's Fourth Quarter Boys Sports. I am the illustrious Professor Lake. Like, comment, share, subscribe. All right, now let's get right into it. The first team we're going to talk about is the Detroit Lions. So two key additions that stood out to me were running back LeGarrette Blount. He came from the Philadelphia Eagles, has a championship pedigree with the Eagles as well as the New England Patriots. And also the Lions were able to snag Christian Jones from the Chicago Bears, linebacker that we're very familiar with. Really played a big backup role over the past couple seasons, been able to step in and service the Bears pretty well. But let's go deeper. You know, the Lions have been known not to have a running game. A lot of times, you know, the offensive production has fell on Matthew Stafford's shoulders. And I think with the addition of a guy like LeGarrette Blount, it's definitely going to take some pressure off his shoulders, especially in short yardage situations, especially when they get down to the goal line and, you know, automatically they start thinking pass. Most of the time, defenses really prepare to stop Matthew Stafford. Now with the addition of LeGarrette Blount, they're going to have to prepare for the run as well. He's getting up there in age, but I think he's still a serviceable running back. I still think he could get you those short yards. I still think that he could push the pile in goal line situations, not to mention that he's a relatively decent pass blocker. Now, when it comes to Christian Jones, you know, a lot of people look at him like he's just an average linebacker, but what enhances this move is that he comes from a divisional opponent. He knows everything about the Bears, personnel, how to play against a guy like Jordan Howard, what the offensive linemen on the Bears block like, where are the weaknesses on the offensive line. That really improved the Detroit Lions in areas when they play the Chicago Bears. Now, will he be this impact player in other games? I don't know. That's yet to be seen. One of the key losses, though, when you look at the Detroit Lions, you have to talk about the loss of Eric Ebron and Haloti Ngata. Eric Ebron was slotted to be a tight end that could stretch the field, outrun linebackers, and his production really doesn't match up with his athletic ability. I also think there were character concerns in the locker room, which made the Detroit Lions feel as though they should part ways with Eric Ebron. Definitely a loss, regardless of the drops that he may have had throughout his career, regardless of the attitude that he had within the locker room, and and just the general inconsistency in each year. I think that it's still a loss because he was able to stretch the field with just the threat of him being able to outrun linebackers. He wasn't the best blocker in the world, but in the passing game, he definitely could have been a threat. Now, Haloti Ngata, he's had a long career. He's getting up there in age. I think he's 34 years old. I think they wanted to go a different direction. Again, I think with the addition of this new coaching staff, you got a guy like Matt Patricia. He's definitely cut from a winning pedigree, and I think that they'll be able to bring that to the Detroit Lions. I think better coaching in the defensive ranks will improve the gameplay overall. I don't see much of a drop-off. I don't see a lot of improvement with the Detroit Lions, but at the same time, they haven't lost much as well. But what they have gained is a coach with a championship pedigree that will be able to coach this team through a 16-game season, and as well as understanding how to coach a team during the playoffs. Now, when you look at what they did in the draft, again, it seems like they're trying to strengthen the run game. They got a center, Frank Ragnow, and they also got running back Kerryon Johnson. You pair Kerryon Johnson with LeGarrette Blount. I think that's definitely improvement in your running back room. You add Frank Ragnow to your offensive line group. It's kind of shoring things up to be able to run on the inside. It just bolsters your line play as well. So they definitely got better where they were weak at last season. They were able to replace the running backs. As far as the Bears go, I think the difference between last year and this year, they're definitely going to have to focus on stopping the run a little bit more, preparing for the run a little bit more, as opposed to going into Detroit Lion football games and just preparing to stop Matthew Stafford. That's the major difference. Okay, the next team we're going to take a look at is the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay, key additions, Jimmy Graham and Muhammad Wilkerson. They also added Mercedes Lewis a little bit later in free agency. But the major additions, in my opinion, is Jimmy Graham and Muhammad Wilkerson. Now, Jimmy Graham, also a guy that's getting up there in age, but he's going to be able to tear up the red zone, and he can stretch the field as well. You look for a guy like Jimmy Graham to be a security blanket for Aaron Rodgers. I think they're really going to be able to execute maybe even a little bit better than with the older Jordy Nelson, a guy who was having problems separating after his knee injury. Now, with the addition of Muhammad Wilkerson to the Green Bay Packer defense, they were a team that had a hard time stopping the run, getting pressure on quarterbacks. When you add a guy like Muhammad Wilkerson and you put him on the side of a guy like Mike Daniels, you put your team in a position to where you got to figure out who you're going to double team. You got to figure out, are you going to double team Mike Daniels or Muhammad Wilson? Are you going to be able to chip their defensive ends? Adding this type of talent to your defensive line causes problems for offensive linemen, and being able also to coordinate an offensive attack that neutralizes guys like Muhammad Wilkerson and Mike Daniels. So definitely a good addition to the defense. Again, the key losses, in my opinion, is Jordy Nelson. He took a dip in production last season, but with the addition of Jimmy Graham, I don't know how much production you make up from the loss of Jordy Nelson. I don't know if you can, but we'll see what some of these younger wide receivers can do. And we'll also see what Jimmy Graham can do in the red zone. They still have Aaron Rodgers, the magician, a QB. He does not need a whole lot to perform. He's been working with a lot of different receivers throughout his career. And one thing I can say about Aaron Rodgers is that no matter what his receiving core looks like, he knows how to move the football. In the draft, the Green Bay Packers picked up cornerback Jair Alexander and cornerback Josh Jackson, some of the best cornerbacks that came out in the draft this season. If Jair Alexander and Josh Jackson can catch up with the speed of the NFL, you will see the Green Bay Packers definitely have improvement on their defensive production. Again, overall, what the Bears are going to have to deal with when game planning for the Green Bay Packers, they're going to have to deal with this defensive front. They're going to have to figure out ways to get away from that defensive line, and at the same time, allow the receivers to have enough time to get open against some of these younger cornerbacks who have a lot of spring in their legs. Hopefully a well-coached Bear offense can beat a talented Green Bay Packer defense. But that's what we're looking at, fellas. It's going to be a lot of talent on the other side of the ball when we're on offense, on any team that we play in our division. So the last team we're going to talk about is the Minnesota Vikings. Key additions to their team are quarterback Kirk Cousins and defensive tackle Sheldon Richardson. In my opinion, the quarterback move was a lateral move. It was a lateral move. I'm not sure how much better Kirk Cousins is compared to a guy like Case Keenum when you consider how far Case Keenum was able to bring his team. Sheldon Richardson, on the other hand, he's joining an already productive defense, and that's only going to solidify this defensive performance for next season as well. Notable losses, in my opinion, I think would be the running back Jerick McKinnon, who was pretty productive last season. And losing a running back that's been able to produce as much as Mr. McKinnon, you got to think about how much can Dalvin Cook produce this season coming off this knee injury. Again, Case Keenum, in my opinion, was a tough loss as well. Now, key rookie additions, you'll see that the Vikings picked up cornerback Mike Hughes, offensive tackle Brian O'Neill, and defensive end Jalen Holmes. All of these guys are players that will help both the offense and the defense run more efficiently. So when the Bears play the Vikings, I think one of the major focuses should be getting to Kirk Cousins as he settles into his new offense, stopping the run with the young running back like Dalvin Cook recovering from an ACL tear. And then again, how are we going to be able to defeat such a talented defense? They're stacked with Pro Bowl players from their secondary to their front line. So it's definitely going to be a challenge for the Bears, no matter what team we play in the division. As you can see, the NFC North is one of the tougher divisions in the NFC, and it's shaping up to look like we may be one of the more dominant divisions, in my opinion. Games when we play our division opponents where they're close and we just can't punch the ball in the end zone, I think those days are coming to an end real soon. I think we'll be able to pull out more wins than we did last year in our division. Hey, look, last year we won 0 games. We won 0 games in our division. I think that's going to change around despite some of the improvements our rivals made on their defensive side of the ball. I still think that we could get some games won in our division and really improve our win totals for the entire season. I just wanted to take a quick look at our opponents to see what additions they may have added during the offseason. Wanted to reevaluate who they drafted this season as well, and who are going to be guys that are going to help change the complexion of the NFC North. But it's Fourth Quarter Boy Sports. I'm the illustrious Professor Lake. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Holla at me on the next one when we go back to the Chicago Bears positional analysis, where we'll be covering the tight end group. Holla at your boy. I'm out.